morning I'm with Reverend John Choi from All Nations United Methodist Church, who we're going to be talking today, asking him some questions regarding Christian leadership, specifically in regards to an incubator that we were a part of over an 8-month time frame with he, myself, and around 3 to 4 other people. And we're just going to ask him what did he get from it in regards to Christian leadership. So I'm here now with Brittany Cuevas, my wife, who was also a part of the incubator experience with us in our church. And now I'm going to ask her some of the similar questions that I asked our pastor, Reverend John, a couple days ago. So let's hear what she had to say and what she got from the incubator. All right, so we're here again with another member of the incubator. You've heard from Brittany, you've heard from Reverend John. Now you're going to hear from my brother Brian, another faithful member of our church and our community, but also a participant in the incubator. We want to hear from him what he has to say about what the incubator did for him in terms of his own life, how he understands more regarding leadership, and also how God has formed him into the image of who He's created him to be. Brittany, how did the incubator cultivate your relationship with God and with one another?
I think the incubator was really the first true life group that I had done. I did one in college, but this was, it focused more on accountability, like the first 30 minutes that we'd get together. And I think this was really the first time where I had allowed people to ask how I was doing over the last 2 weeks. So we would meet every 2 weeks, right? And that was always powerful for me when I would be vulnerable, allowing people to come into that place and choosing. I think it took a few weeks to trust, but once that trust was built, allowing them to come into that place and that personal space and ask, where have you seen God? What's your devotion time looking like? Not necessarily quiet time, but just your daily walk with Him. So accountability, and then I definitely think I grew in prayer for each other. I think we put a lot of effort toward praying for one another throughout the week, not just when we were together. And then the glory sightings, I think, were very significant for my personal life because I'd be thinking about them over the 2 weeks, and remembering, this is something I want to share when we get together, when I would see God and see His glory.
How did the incubator cultivate you specifically as a leader?
As a leader, what I really liked about the incubator was you were leading it. So I got to relax a lot of times and just kind of be the spectator in a way. But I was always engaged. And I saw how you took what you learned from other leaders like your professors and Brian, and I've been away from seminary for a couple of years, just kind of just gleaning and learning from the things that you've been learning. So as a leader, I'm always wanting to learn how to be a better leader. And so incubator not only helped me to be a better listener, and I think leaders need to be good listeners, be more observant, but also learning from the way you've led. Maybe they say, aha, that I learned from this moment. Maybe other people can learn in that same fashion or manner. For instance, you always brought us back to the task at hand. You let us speak, you let us go off on tangents if it was relevant, and you let us just be free. And I think I learned a lot from that. So it was good.
How did the incubator cultivate your identity as a Christian leader?
I really appreciated how this incubator model, it allows you to be with people that are very different from you, a small intentional group, and they speak into your life and call forth strengths that they see, encourage, like Brittany, you're kind of better at the administrative aspect, can you do this? Or when we started looking at different missions that we could, or mission projects that we would work on, I knew that I was drawn to naturally the finance piece, how we could make that happen. So as a Christian leader, I think I was able to see in this incubator model, yes, this is something I'm drawn to, the administration, the finance, like finding the pieces to make it happen.
Well, kind of in that same vein, you kind of touched on it as you were answering this one and the difference between doing and being. But how did the incubator help you discover that you're a child of God, that you're a person of worth, just in who you are, over against what you do?
Yeah, I think that question really summarizes most everything that's been said to this point. I mean, of course, everyday walk with Christ, coming to know and for that to be reiterated, and that I am worthy, that I am a child of God. And the incubator, it also reiterated that, or refortified a spinal structure of sorts, to move with other leaders, to move in prayer, to have discernment, to continue to grow and know that those things are really worthy points of being a child of God for me.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are worthy points to take to the Lord and have a sense of worth in myself in the Lord as well.
What is something that the incubator did to help you discover your identity as a child of God?
That one slide of the hand, and it said, "Your worth is who God says you are." Every week that we met, worship was different. You either had a song, we either did worship on guitar and singing, we saw a video on worship, and it just showed the many facets of the ways we can worship our God. And it showed me, it reminded me, and showed me that I'm different from you, but it's okay. It's more than okay, it's good. It's very good, right? And so for me, my worth and who I am, my differences, and coming together intentionally in community with you, and with Brian, and Brittany, and Susanna, and the beginning DJ, all those, Jesse, that was extremely formational, because we all brought something special to the table. Yeah. When we come together, it's easy for us to think, oh, this person has this, that means I'm lacking this. But when we come intentionally as a community in worship, right, the incubator model, and just spend those hours together, it then became, I have something to bring. I have something of value to bring. That was always instituted by the way you drew it out of us. Your leadership drew out our differences, not to say my lack, but to say I have something of value. And so I think that was very Christ-like, a really important lesson for me to learn. And I think all of us learned that too, actually.
How did your understanding of what a leader is and does before the incubator differ from your understanding of what a leader is and does after the incubator was over? How did that change for you of what a leader is, specifically a Christian leader?
Again, service. And, without service, a leader is probably off on the wrong step. And to have that sense of community in the incubator, to have shared a lot of ideas, to have shared several intimate things in our lives, things that had happened from one meeting to the next meeting, from God sightings to praise reports to prayer requests, sharing scriptures with one another. Leadership is a community.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
And the church didn't always see it that way, or didn't always operate that way, or there's certain positions in the church, or sometimes there's certain political angles in the church, or people think that those things exist, or they feel under that thumb, and they don't realize that the entirety of the community is leadership. It just has to be brought into a healthy environment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, coming into community, coming into getting to know one another intimately, being aware that that was part of my intimate life with the Lord while in the incubator. That I was going to be doing these things, and that was very fresh for me to realize, you know, most everybody's a leader. Nobody in the room had anything boring or unworthy to be heard.
How did your understanding of a leader after the incubator differ from your understanding of a leader before we were involved in the incubator together?
Well, I work in, as you know, the business field. I'm an accountant, and I think as I would ponder these things that we would discuss and learn, and the videos we would watch together when I would go back to work, I was going through a transition of an amazing old CEO left the company, and we had a new CEO. And the old CEO, even when our parent company wouldn't give us direction, the old CEO continued to lead those that were underneath him. He led his flock even when he wasn't being led by the board. The new CEO came in and he gave us no direction. When he wouldn't receive direction from the parent company, he would just do nothing. He wouldn't communicate any word. If he didn't have a word, he wouldn't communicate anything. Instead of, you know, the old CEO would continue to encourage, continue to remind us of what our goal, of what our mission, of what our values are. So this incubator, because we would constantly go back to what are our values, what is our mission, what is our goal. I think I learned as a leader and in the business field and in this incubator how important it is to, as the leader, to remind the people around you what it is we stand for. And that is really what a CEO has to do, not necessarily be in the day-to-day activities, but remind us of what our mission is.
How did the incubator model transform your understanding of the leader? What was your understanding before, and what have you learned since the incubator that being a leader may look different?
I've always struggled with that question. You know, what is it to be a leader? All these thoughts about becoming a leader, servant leader, all these things we've learned in seminary, the training, education. But put simply, I think the best way to lead is to know that we are all being led by the Holy Spirit.
Thanks, John. Thanks so much, buddy. You've heard it firsthand of what leadership's like for a pastor, but also how his identity is being shaped and continually transformed when he submits himself to the Holy Spirit, but also to the leaders around him. John, thanks so much, buddy. I hope you've gotten a glimpse of one of the few and many people that have been a part of the incubator, to be able to see how their hearts have come together, how their hearts have been transformed, but also how their hearts can be expressed through the way that they live in service and ministry and mission to the world.